Hey guys, you're welcome to this surprise video in which we are going to learn more about Alyssa Ashcroft. Resident Evil Requiem is around the corner. In fact, right now that I'm recording this video, we still have 6 days for this game to be released, and I'm so excited, I'm literally dying. And I think it's just right for us to learn more about Grace's mother. Actually, I considered playing the Outbreak series. I don't own a PS2. I have played Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake, Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. I also know the story of Resident Evil 1 and the mansion and that poor family up on the mountains and Albert Wesker. I prefer to prepare myself for Resident Evil 9 by watching this video and know everything, almost everything about Grace's mother. If you think this video missed some stuff, please do let me know down in the comments, whatever I have to know. Let's watch the video together. I found this video in a channel called Evil Blitz.
Evil 9 has been officially revealed, and with that comes the introduction of a new character to the series, Grace Ashcroft, who just so happens to be the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, an investigative reporter who was involved in the iconic Raccoon City incident and other major incidents in the Resident Evil series. So to prepare you for Resident Evil 9, I will be covering Alyssa's entire story, starting with her deadly encounters in the Arklay Mountains, to her participation in the Raccoon City incident, all the way to her tragic death following her investigation at Wrenwood Hotel. So guys, without further ado, let's get right into it.
It's her.
Alyssa Ashcroft was born in the 1970s and spent her early life growing up in Raccoon City. As she grew older, she eventually pursued a career in journaling and became an investigative reporter. Her first documented investigation began in 1993 with a case that would unknowingly tie her to the Umbrella Corporation for the rest of her life. Alyssa and her colleague Kurt ventured deep into the Arklay Mountains following rumors of corruption at a remote hospital. It turns out that their hunch was right, as unbeknownst to them, the hospital director Albert had begun accepting bribes from Umbrella researcher Greg Mueller to
Albert Lester? What do you mean? I wanted to say, is he brother to Wesker? But the family name is kind of different, but not different at the same time.
illegally trial his experimental virus on cancer patients. And during this time, Albert's wife Dorothy was terminally ill and was stationed at the Arklay Hospital. In an act of desperation, Albert agreed to the trials and put his wife on trial in hopes that she may be cured. And much to his surprise, the experiment was initially a success, with both his wife and the other test patient being cured of their cancer. However, this would come at a cost, as shortly after the procedure, the test patient would pass away and Dorothy would mutate uncontrollably into a zombie that began to roam the halls and inflict chaos to the entire hospital. It was at this point when Alyssa and her partner Kurt would be called in to investigate, completely unaware of the dangers that await them. Shortly after entering into the building, Dorothy grabbed a hold of Kurt and brutally infected and murdered him on the spot. After Alyssa witnessed this tragedy, she would attempt to flee the hospital, but it wouldn't be long after when she was kidnapped by Umbrella researcher Greg Mueller and subjected to a procedure that would suppress her memories of the event in order to cover up the entire incident.
Okay, that makes sense. So this outbreak started from this hospital in the first place in the Raccoon City. And it's always Umbrella. Of course we knew it was Umbrella. But wow, poor Alyssa.
Following this tragedy, Alyssa would continue her career in journaling for many years and would work as a staff reporter for some media outlets. One of the companies she worked for was News Comet, where she wrote an entire article that reported on the discovery of a man's body found at Ames River in the Arklay Mountains. The article says the following: "Body washes up on shore of Ames, Alyssa Ashcroft, staff reporter. The body of an unidentified white male has been found in the Ames River in the northwest Arklays. At least a year has passed since the man died, so the body has been impossible to identify. Powerful steroids along with other drugs were found in the body, and police are suspecting foul play. The river has been long used by local pharmaceutical companies as a dumping ground, and links to illegal activities in connection to that have not been ruled out." Now, unbeknownst to Alyssa, this was the result of the hospital director, Albert Lester, who had gone completely mad after his wife's death and the hospital's collapse, and continued to roam around the Arklay Mountains, carving up anyone who stepped in his path. Alyssa would unfortunately cross paths with him later in her story. However, just before that, something disastrous would take place first. In September of 1998, a deadly virus contaminated the Raccoon City's drinking water, causing a viral outbreak in the city which would quickly infect Alyssa. By the following evening on September 24th, Alyssa was already showing signs of mutation, but even as the infection coursed through her body, she was determined to survive. And in a desperate attempt to escape the city, she made her way towards the surrounding mountains and took shelter into a nearby cabin. During this, she is greeted by Albert Lester. However, with her memories erased, she had completely forgotten about his ties to Umbrella. Albert claimed that he knew a way out of the city and offered to guide her through the mountains, and this ultimately took her back to the hospital as part of Albert's plans. See, over the years, a monster plant that was held in the hospital's basement slowly consumed the building, and Albert came to believe that this plant was actually Dorothy's reincarnation. Because of this, he roamed the mountains for years, killing any animal and human in his path to feed the plant for nourishment, and this is why he lured Alyssa to the hospital, as he had plans to feed her to the plant. Now,
God damn it, this dude. He's completely gone crazy. Albert Lester. Why couldn't they choose a, I don't know, more creative name for him? I mean, Albert Wesker, Albert Lester. What? Why would they do this?
during Alyssa's exploration, she began to recall her memories of her investigation with Kurt, and even came to remember his tragic death. It's here that she also discovers the truth about Umbrella and its conspiracy, and becomes more determined than ever to expose the company's corruption. After fending off the insane Albert Lester and defeating the massive plant in the basement, the building begins to collapse, but Alyssa is able to escape just in time and continue her escape of the city. And on October 1st, in the early hours of the morning, she managed to flee just before the city was nuked, though it is uncertain how exactly she escaped.
I think the city was nuked after Jill, Resident Evil 3 remake, right? Or no, maybe... Yeah, I remember. The Resident Evil 2 events and Jill Valentine kind of were happening at the same time.
The use of a special vaccine, the infection was purged from her system before it could fully transform her, and she emerged not as a victim of the outbreak, but as a witness and fully escaped. Managed to flee just before the city was nuked, though it is uncertain how exactly she escaped. With the use of a special vaccine, the infection was purged from her system before it could fully transform her, and she emerged not as a victim of the outbreak, but as a witness and a threat to the secrets Umbrella tried to bury beneath the rubble of Raccoon City. Following the city's destruction, Alyssa continued what she did best, journaling. Channeling her trauma into truth, she published an expose titled "What is a BOW?", blowing the lid off of this horrifying secret project. In it, she detailed the inner workings of Umbrella's bioweapons program and its role in the massacre of the entire city.
This footage is from, I think, the intro of Resident Evil 2. I think, if I remember correctly.
Supported by the testimonies of fellow survivors Yoko Suzuki and Linda Baldwin, the article helped ignite the Raccoon Trials, which was a 5-year legal battle that ultimately led to the downfall of Umbrella USA. But even with overwhelming evidence, truth was not so easily accepted. The US government worked swiftly to contain the story, and over time, the events in Raccoon City were dismissed as an urban legend, and bioorganic weapons were labeled as a conspiracy. Despite the cover-up, Alyssa would continue her investigative work, and would eventually find time to raise a daughter named Grace, who would later follow a path of her own into law enforcement.
Oh, so... Yeah, actually in the trailer, Resident Evil 9 trailers, I saw some bits and pieces of Grace and Alysia being together. I thought Grace was seeing her mother's ghost, because for some reason I thought Alysia died, but it looks like, yeah, she was saved and came back to her home to raise her daughter. Okay.
Even as the world moved on, Alyssa remained on the front lines of uncovering hidden threats, and in 2016, she reported on a series of mysterious disappearances in Dulvey, Louisiana, which was actually tied to the Baker family incident from Resident Evil 7.
Wow! My mind is blown right now. So Resident Evil 9 is going to be about everything? It's going to tie everything together, this game. Wow, I cannot wait to play it. I seriously cannot.
Her report states the following. Over 20 missing in 2 years. Captain Howell from State Police told reporters that they have started a search for Helen Midkiff, a college student from North Carolina who was traveling in Louisiana. Mrs. Midkiff hasn't been heard of since the night of the 21st. Reports of missing persons in South Louisiana have increased dramatically in the past 2 years. The majority of those missing are tourists and vagrants. At least 20 people are thought to have gone missing so far. Police suspect foul play and believe there may be a connection between the incidents. Plans are in place to step up local interrogations and increase personnel to further the investigations.
Wow.
Alyssa Ashcroft, January 19th, 2016. Her article published in the Dolby Daily stood as one of the only public records tied to the biological disaster that unfolded there. But like Raccoon City before it, the Dolby incident was quickly covered up, the area was quarantined, and the missing persons were left unacknowledged. Through every cover-up and threat, Alyssa Ashcroft remained defiant, acting as one of the few voices who refused to let the world forget what lurked beneath the surface.
I like her, she's
Now,
so
following the
badass.
Baker incident, Alyssa Ashcroft's final documented investigation would take place at the Wrenwood Hotel, where she would be tragically murdered and never return. 8 years later, her daughter Grace Ashcroft would be assigned to a case that would be tied to the hotel, and she would recall haunting flashbacks of Alyssa's final moments.
I know. That's where your mother was murdered.
This is from the trailer.
Alyssa died 8 years ago.
Okay, so the person that we signed, not the person, that monster that we signed the trailer, and I was wondering who that was. Probably he is the killer of her mom. Maybe a bioweapon of Umbrella again, like Nemesis.
Perhaps it's time for you to face the past.
Grace now seeks to uncover what her mother died trying to expose, and in Resident Evil 9 we may just find out the truth. But with that, we conclude the full story of Alyssa Ashcroft in Resident Evil, and if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news and updates with Resident Evil 9, then be sure to subscribe. Also, let me know any theories you have for RE9 in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys think. But
This guy is the killer, right?
guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for making this video. That was very illuminating. Okay guys, that was awesome. I'm so glad I thought to watch this video. Wow, so Grace is going back to the hotel to find out what really happened to her mom. I don't know, her mom died 8 years ago prior to the story of Resident Evil 9. I don't know what age she is by then. I don't think she was young enough to forget what really happened to her mom. But maybe she has some PTSD, or maybe I'm just talking BS at this point. I don't know. But I'm so glad we watched this. So Alyssa Ashcroft was a very responsible journalist who found out about Umbrella, and she was a victim of them. And again, she was actually the one covering the news in Louisiana. That's so mind-blowing. Man, I remember when I was playing as Ethan in Resident Evil 7, we saw some newspapers. I think it was on the table in the kitchen. In my life, I've never been so excited for an upcoming game. I'm not even lying. I cannot wait to play as Leon again, but I've heard that you can play as Leon and Grace at the same time. I've already watched a couple of trailers, and I think a new trailer 4 for this game is also released, but I kind of refused to watch that because I thought the game is just around the corner. I don't need to watch another trailer. I normally don't watch any trailers at all for any game that I play, or any movie that I watch. I never watch the trailers because I want to be 100% blind and have no idea what's going on. But watching the story of Alyssa Ashcroft, I think, was kind of necessary. Anyway guys, if you didn't know about Alyssa Ashcroft like me and you haven't played the Outbreak series yourselves, what do you think about it? I think Alyssa Ashcroft was really badass. I think she is the kind of journalist that the world needs right now. I don't think we have many of them around right now, to be honest. Every journalist just comes with some political narrative. no one covers the truth anymore. I'm going to play Resident Evil 9 as soon as it comes out. Of course, it's gonna take me a day to edit and upload it, but do let me know down in the comments if I do record a playthrough of this new game. Are you going to watch it, or you're just or you're gonna wait, play the game yourselves, and then watch a playthrough of it? I know a bunch of my friends who don't own a PS5. That's why they just rely on playthroughs of other people on YouTube. So that's why I plan to record it and upload it as soon as possible on the channel. Let's see how it goes then. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you learned something just like I did. I will probably see you in the very first episode of Resident Evil Requiem on this channel. Or if you're also watching my Expedition 33 playthrough, I will see you in the next video of that game. See you then. Bye.